morning, it's August 16th and you're watching Ireland AM. Happy Friday.
Coming up, we look at this morning's top news stories, including 5 arrests made in connection with the death of Friends star Matthew Perry.
The Premier League is back and we'll of course be looking ahead to this season's opening match with Man United and Fulham, as well as catching up on a great night for the League of Ireland clubs in Europe.
And welcome, Sean, to the show.
Thank you. Great to be back.
As Ireland's relationship with drugs changes, we learn how you and your children can stay drug aware during the music festival season.
And don't leave us now, while we catch up with the hot house flowers, Fiachna Ó Braonáin. Get it?
I did get it.
Yeah,
thank you, Elaine.
Yeah, I do
beautiful.
try.
Well done.
Early on a Friday morning.
And if you're looking for some hot flowers for your house and your garden's looking a little lacklustre, fear not.
That was good,
There
Sean.
we go. I try. It's Friday morning. We'll get there. We'll be making your outdoor space sizzle with some late summer colour.
And she's an author, a chart-topping podcaster and a beauty boss. Vogue Williams tells us all about her latest challenge, radio.
Now, Deric has tried his hand at most endeavours, it must be said, but this week he's really bringing it from the top rope. I'm afraid to ask Deric, what are you up to now?
Don't go, don't let me down. You know that song? Hot House Flowers, what a classic. Anyway, guys, following our road trip to Galway Mayo this week, we've landed here in Dublin 22. It's a dry, settled and sunny start, and in fact, really nice dry weather out there today. A bit of cloud cover to the west, up around the northwest, but good news for anyone heading to day one of EP down in Strandvalley, County Laois. It looks like some nice sunny spells, and in fact, holding dry right across the weekend. So good news all round. Now, we've landed here in Clondalkin. In fact, the rugby club here, these are the brand new pitches, but in the middle of all that, you'll find the Irish Wrestling Club. So we're going to be spending a morning with them in the ring. Hulk Hogan, eat your heart out. Shane, our researcher, sent me a message yesterday. He said, "Dirk, do you have a singlet?" I said, "I'll see what I have in my drawer." So we'll give the audience what they want. We'll have fun.
Wrestling.
I'm
afraid to ask what's in your drawers, Deric, to be quite honest. Anyway.
I hope he wears one of the masks.
The South
Rey
American ones.
Mysterio.
El Derico, you know?
El Derico.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll have to come up with our wrestling names.
We will. That's our task for the day, isn't it?
There's
God.
something to think about.
Oh God, don't.
I think we're going to have to do it.
Now let's take a first look at your morning paper, starting with the Irish Times. Its headline reads, "Concern over construction quality at Children's Hospital." It goes on to report that concerns around the construction quality in parts of the new National Children's Hospital were flagged with senior government officials in a report which also warned of continued timeline uncertainty around the completion of the development.
Delays again, shock. Cuckoo Fund tries to sell 120 homes amid poor returns. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. The paper writes that a Cuckoo Fund that bought up hundreds of distressed Irish properties is trying to offload up to 120 of them because they were not making a good return.
The Examiner leads with "The world must be ashamed." It reports that more than 40,000 people have been killed in the Israeli war in Gaza. A milestone the world must be ashamed of, the Taoiseach has said.
Onto the tabloids, and the Daily Mail opens with intimidation at Thornton Hall. It writes that Gardaí are set to retain a 24-hour presence at Thornton Hall, the state's newest and largest centre for asylum seekers, as security personnel on the site are now being stalked.
The Sun leads with Friends Matt, 2 docs charged. It reports that 2 doctors are among 5 suspects charged over the ketamine death of Friends actor Matthew Perry.
The Herald opens with the same story with the headline, "With friends like these." It writes that 5 people have been charged in connection with Friends star Matthew Perry's death from an accidental ketamine overdose last October.
The Star leads with Electric Picnic OD alert. It reports that revellers at Electric Picnic are being warned of the dangers of lethal lab-made drugs being sold as party drugs after 11 prisoners were hospitalised in nearby Portlaoise this week after they overdosed on a synthetic amphetamine.
And the Mirror leads with "Callan kicks tubs." The paper writes that comedian Oliver Callan has gained more listeners than Ryan Tubridy after taking over his RTE Radio 1 slot.
I will take a look at this morning's big stories in depth after this short break. You're very welcome back to Ireland AM. More concerns about the new Children's Hospital, but this time it's about the quality of the construction, apparently.
Joining us with that and the other big stories in this morning, our assistant editor with the Irish Daily Mail, Linda Marr, and deputy political editor with the Irish Examiner, Paul Hosford. Guys, thanks a million for joining us this Friday morning. Paul, so it's already overpriced, it's already over budget, it's already delayed, and now the quality's not so good.
Yeah, but other than that, the Children's Hospital is flying.
It's going to be great. It's going to be the best hospital you've ever seen.
I think it's been a couple of months since we've had an issue with the Children's Hospital flight, so we were due, I think. This is a report that went to a Department of Health Oversight Committee in May. It suggested that the builder BAM there were some concerns over the construction quality. Some of the rooms, they're about 60% signed off on the rooms. But there's also a line in there that I found interesting, was that BAM has prepared a closeout plan that the Oversight Committee reckons is poorly planned and already behind schedule. So that you wonder, does that date of February, is that starting to slip? We were told February with a 6-month commissioning, so kind of this time next year that the hospital will be up and running. Is that starting to slip? Are we looking at kind of further into next year? This is a project, like you said, it's already over budget, it's already behind schedule. I think, last week we saw the suggestion by the Fianna Fáil Senator Malcolm Byrne that Ireland should host the 2072 Olympics, and there were some people joking that you could make the opening of the Children's Hospital part of the opening ceremony. So that's where we're at on this. I don't think people will really believe that this is going to be open, it's going to be actually completed until it's completed. The one thing that you really have going for, and Leo Varadkar came back to this all the time when he was the Taoiseach, is that this will be a world-class hospital, and once it's done, and you don't have to do it again for another 100 years or so. But I think for people who've lived throughout the whole thing, and like ourselves, journalists who've covered this thing from the start, it has felt like 100 years.
How much is it costing now?
2.4 billion is the latest figure.
Billion.
Well, I mean,
goodness.
And 650 million was the initial estimate, so it's literally 4 times the cost. And there's other parts, I mean, in this report as well, it mentions, Linda, that like the car park, for example, is still out to tender, only has one tenderer.
That was the shocking part for me, because anyone who's ever had anybody in hospital, had to go to hospital regular themselves, will know car parking costs are crippling in this country. And so to hear there's only one tender does not make you feel like you're going to get value for money on that either. I know BAM have said a lot of this delay is client-instructed change.
What does that mean?
Well, we're not even at snag list stage, and anybody who's bought a house will know how long that even takes once you get to that point. And they're already saying, they're kind of flipping it back on that. They're saying that they've been told that changes have to be made that they weren't aware of, and this is what's holding up the whole thing. But definitely the car park line stood out for me as being quite
which has
scary.
always been a concern as well when they picked the James's site, because parking in the centre of town, exactly, it's a nightmare.
And for staff as well. I mean, you hear about nurses being clamped outside hospitals because they've had to work over their shifts, not by any fault of their own, it's just because they can't walk out the door.
And where are the staff going to live as well is another issue. I mean, there's nothing around that area for accommodation-wise either, so it's just looking like a big mess.
No, it is. And, hopefully, as Paul was saying, you are being promised that when this is ready, it will be world-class. That's all very well inside the doors, but outside the doors has to be taken into account as well. Traffic is another issue,
Trying people to get there. A story in the Examiner this morning, Paul, as well, which, you know what, it's in all the news since October, but I don't think enough noise has been made about the absolute horrific genocide that's been ongoing in Gaza and in Palestine. 40,000 is the latest estimate from the Hamas-run ministry there. Absolutely shocking that it's led to this. And of course, the Taoiseach Simon Harris, we had Michael D. Higgins as well giving out about it as well the other day. The world must be ashamed at this stage. Yeah,
and that's the line from the Taoiseach today. I said to Linda today, one of the things that really, really struck me in recent days is that there was a Voices for Palestine Instagram page, which has a lot of followers, which the other day said we're gonna stop over the next couple of days because it doesn't seem like any human horror is enough for the world to really care or to take any kind of action. And when you get to the point where every couple of weeks there seems to be something in Gaza where you think that has to be an inflection point, that has to be the point where we tip over and somebody somewhere, and look, we all know where we're looking. We're looking at the US to stop this.
How much did they sell in weapons to Israel just the other day? It's 13 or 32 billion. A lot of billion anyway, I must double check that. But the billions of dollars worth of weaponry and drones and missiles to Israel. So while that's going on, this is never going to end.
No, and that's where we're at now. You look at bombings of schools or of displacement camps or of places that are meant to be safe for. There's 85% of the people in Gaza are displaced, so the safe zones for them are supposed to be safe zones, and we know they're not. And I think we're at a point now where I don't know what will be enough to force action. Even look, our government has been good on this since the off. Better than most, you know, and has gone to Europe and dragged the centre their way and has done really well and deserves credit for what they've said. Even Simon Harris's quote there on the front of our paper today about the world being ashamed. Yeah, it's very, very strong. But at what point do you stop talking and take action? Because we had a story 2 weeks ago where trade with Israel hasn't been impacted in the 10 months. You know, we're still doing business with these people. Yeah. So at what point do you start to look at it and say, we need to do something stronger than talk?
Yeah.
Is there, you obviously said that the massacres aren't having that impact in getting politics there. Is politics going to get it there, and specifically the US election, in that there are these talks in Doha and it has become a real sticking point for Kamala Harris, because a lot of young people in the US are looking at this and saying we shouldn't be backing Israel as much as we are. Is the reality that ultimately that is where the hope lies on the more cynical political side of things?
Yeah, absolutely, because Kamala Harris can't win the election in November without young people, and she can't afford to ship votes on the issue of Gaza. And she has spoken a better game than Joe Biden, but you know, we'll really have to see how she does over the next couple of months, how big a focus of her campaign she wants to make it. Because if she doesn't care, and look, there are people, we saw her being heckled last week at an event on the issue of Gaza. I'm not entirely sure that the US president, who recognised Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, is a better bet if your issue is Gaza. But if you do have to choose the kind of less perfect option, it might be Kamala Harris, and she might be the only person who's willing or able to, you know, force Israel to the table on ceasefire talks.
Another story stateside is 5 people have been charged over the death of Matthew Perry. That's across all social media and, of course, all mainstream media as well this morning. Yeah,
it's very sad. I read, I'm a massive Friends fan, and I read Matthew's book, but I didn't actually read it until after he died. And it's funny because if you were to read it before he died, you'd have felt really optimistic by the end of it and thinking, oh, he's managed to turn this around. He's really got to a point where he's handling this. He knows what he needs to do. And of course, we read it after his death and you realise he was probably still lying to himself the whole way through writing the book, you know, and it's desperately sad. Basically, you know, the line just taken advantage of. That's what was happening among friends, among his assistants, among his doctors. And if you look back, or if you think back to Michael Jackson, like when Conrad Murray, you know, he got a 4-year sentence for involuntary manslaughter. He served 2 years. So Matthew Perry's doctor, Salvador Florencia, he's been arrested as part of this. So it's, you know, they were selling, like, there was one $12 vial that they sold him for $2,000. And it was just, there was a text between them saying, how much do you think we can get from this moron for this, you know, and it's really despicable kind of language and despicable behaviour. And I'm kind of glad to see that there's action been taken.
Yeah, one of the quotes actually is that the defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction to enrich themselves, and that's what it was here.
Yeah, it is, and it's sickening, you know, and it's seeing that vulnerability that he had, that everybody could see within him, but most people wanted to help him. These people just wanted to exploit him.
And ultimately led to his death, of course, as well.
But I suppose there's the issue as well, that he was an autonomous being as well, I suppose, that did make choices in his life, Paul, as well. So there is that.
Yeah, there was no suggestion of foul play in his actual death, but the police in California said that they were examining kind of the broader context there, where how these drugs are available, how readily available they are,
and accessing them,
and licensed doctors who are prescribing them to people who don't need them.
Yeah.
On a slightly happier note, are you going to EP?
I'm not, no.
No? Okay, right. We're all very boring on this couch then, aren't we?
I'm working.
We're very busy.
We're very busy.
People.
We're very busy working people.
Very responsible.
Are you working that day?
Yes, yeah. No, do you know what? I don't think I have a camping festival in me again. I've hit that point in my 30s when, I used to love festivals.
Really?
Oh my God, love it.
I've never been to one.
Have you never been to one?
I did Longitude for a day once with the Childerfolk, and that was about it. But I keep meaning to go to EP, and every year I say I'm going to do it, and every year I forget and I don't book it off in time and I can't go. Next year.
Next year, 100%. I was one of those people who loved EP, and then the crowd started getting younger and younger. Definitely not me getting older and older and now look for other festivals. So,
is there a festival for like old ones like me? What would that one be?
There is one. What's it called? There's what's that one? Forever Young.
Forever Young. Yeah, but it's
Not on this year, I'm told.
No, it didn't happen this year, but hopefully next year.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be able to get it together.
We could do that.
We could do that.
Yeah, stumble along to it. How about you, Paul? Would you be into that?
I went to one festival. It was Oxygen in 2006.
Oh,
And I got
wow.
lashed on, and I just swore never again. And
I couldn't book it until the Friday when I saw what the weather was going to be like. Then I might think, okay. I'll have a
Is
look
there
at it.
anything worse than wandering around in wellies in the lashing rain, not
When
being
the
able to
water's
find a
inside
loo?
the wellies.
There is when your wellies, yes, your tellies, when your wellies get stolen from outside your tent, which happened to me at Altogether now 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, left them outside the tent so they wouldn't muck it up when to get out.
And do they not know your Waterford royalty?
I know, yeah.
Not in your own county.
Waterford branded wellies and everything. There's an interesting row, though, Paul, about the beer at Electric Picnic and this sort of microbrewery that's in Fortlaoise that isn't allowed into Electric Picnic, basically.
I find this very funny because it comes around with Electric Picnic all the time about bands, podcasts, brands that are allowed. It's a private event. The organisers will go with whoever they think will attract the biggest crowds, and they will go with the beer brand that pays them the most money to be there. It's not a public event. You have no right. You've no right to rock up to Virgin Media and demand to be on the TV because it's a private company, and you decide who goes on air. You've no right to rock up to Electric Picnic and decide that you're going to be able to sell your beer.
I did like the quote from Melvin Benn, the managing director of Festival Republic, who said, "I don't like the beer. Does that ever occur to anybody? I've tasted it and I don't like it."
And that's the main reason, as we know. That's the only reason they're not being allowed to sell their. Where's the company from? Is it off?
The company is from
They're
Portlaoise, I
2.5
think.
kilometres.
Yeah.
Very close to the site.
Yeah, but that's absolutely gas. So every year I heard on Joe Duffy yesterday the same story. Every year it goes on and on and on. But as you said, it is private. They let who the hell they want in there.
Well, that's like you can imagine them sitting around the table with Heineken, and Heineken saying, "Okay, we're going to give you X amount of money to be exclusive." Well, do you know what? There's a little place 2.5 kilometres down the road. They were wondering, can they sell?
Pop
You
in
can
for the
imagine
crack.
with Heineken. Oh yeah, that's fine. That's no. Well, of course they're not going to allow that.
Yeah.
So, and as Paul said, it's all about the money and who's going to pay you the most.
Yeah, exactly. God, actually, my sister, speaking of festival nightmares, those rows of Portaloos. Once she was in a Portaloo at the very end one, and some inebriated individuals thought it would be fun to play dominoes with said Portaloos. She was in the very last one. And yes, it happened. So she just rang us afterwards, being hosed down by a load of firemen going, this is a low point.
That's actually a pretty good outcome.
Low point of money. So if you do have any festival stories,
Is she looking forward to Electric Picnic this weekend?
She's not going. I don't think she's ever gone to a concert since. And it's hard to blame her, really. Yeah, so there you go. So no matter what, you thought your welly story was bad.
Yeah, it's not as bad as being knocked over in a Portaloo. That's a good message for life, isn't it? Whatever's going on in your life today, it's not as bad as being knocked over in a Portaloo.
Oh, listen, thank you both so very much for joining us on the show this morning. Now, stay with us. Sport is up after the break, including a brilliant European night for the League of Ireland. You're very welcome back to Ireland AM. Well, it was a massive night for Irish football as Shamrock Rovers guaranteed themselves Group European football with a famous victory in Tallaght. While across the water, Man United opened the new Premier League season with a home tie against Fulham. Presenter of the Tackling Sport podcast, Daniel Hussey, is here to bring us through the morning's big sports stories. And you're having withdrawal from the Olympics, I imagine, already. So now we're going back home with a bang, though. What a night in Tallaght.
It was brilliant, to be honest with you. I was a bit nervous going into both ties. We'll get to St. Pat's in a bit, but Shamrock Rovers in particular was the big one in the sense, if they win, for those that don't understand, you get to the playoff round of the Europa League. You win that, you get group stage Europa League, and you lose that, you get group stage to the Conference League, which Rovers had a few years ago. So it's now a win-win. It definitely wasn't a win-win last night. But a great atmosphere, 6,000 in Tallaght, and Shamrock Rovers obviously going for 5 in a row in the league will probably fall just short of that. So I'm delighted for Stephen Bradley because he's done a phenomenal job there, and to get this second carrot of European group stage football is absolutely superb for them. But it was a fantastic occasion in Tallaght and showcase over the line, but fantastic Graham getting the winner there too. So.
And considering that they're a dodgy enough Premier domestic league so far anyway, to have that is a huge boost. Absolutely.
Like I said, it's sort of a 3-way title race that's probably going to go Shelbourne's way, possibly Derry. Now, Rovers fan will tell you they've been eyeing up the top two, saying they're still in the title, but I think the guarantee of group stage and the lure of group stage football, and to give it a proper go, because I think a couple of years ago they were still fighting on the domestic front when they were in the group stage, whereas now they can sort of put all their eggs in the European basket. And I'd have high hopes for them, particularly if they do end up in the Conference League group stage, to get a couple of results that may or may not see them qualified for a knockout stage. But regardless, it's just a fantastic achievement and so so important for Irish football.
Oh, it's huge. And I know my nephews who are Cork City fans came up when they were in Dublin the last time, went to a Rovers match anyway, just the atmosphere. They were buzzing when they were coming out of it. And we can't underestimate the importance of the domestic league here, really.
Absolutely.
More needs to be ploughed into it.
Just on Cork, like, it's great, like Sean Maguire's back and there's a good buzz around Cork.
Rory Keating, they're all delighted.
They're going to be back in the Premier Division, but like Cork's a proper club. When I go down there and Turner's Cross, it's an electric atmosphere, and the teams like Cork have to be in the Premier Division. So for them,
but they will be next year, hopefully. Anyway,
exactly.
St. Pat's, back to what happened last night, though. Great result for them as well.
Yeah, Zach Elavusi has come in from the Swedish club there a few years ago, and he's hit the ground running. 2 goals in 2 European games for Pat's stage. So they're now 1 game off group stage in the Conference League. So
we're looking at a possibility there.
Possibility, yeah. You could have a situation where ideally Rovers are in the Europa League group stage and Pat's in the Conference League. The more likely is Rovers drop down to the Conference League group stage and possibly Pat's follow them as well.
Could make the Europa League.
Yeah, there's a small streak for Rovers, and then for Pats themselves, possibly the chance for Conference League. But very quickly, like with rights issues and stuff, and with RT Virgin Media, it is tough to buy these individual qualifying games. I know it's not easy because a lot of them are being streamed, but there is a frustration around from the League of Ireland fans that both these games were streamed last night as opposed to being picked up. I'm not sure yet what the process is for next week's games, but I know there'll be a big push from both channels. But I understand the frustration with League of Ireland fans, but it is because of Champions League rights and European rights in general, it is tough. It's a very complicated issue, but it is worth pointing out.
Expensive and complicated. Speaking of expensive and complicated, we have Man United, our opening of the Premiership. Of course, Eric Ten Hag says they're just not ready. Gotta love them. Yeah, will they ever be ready?
I actually couldn't believe that quote, to be honest. Like, if you're not ready, you tell the world you're ready, and you try and delay a couple of other new signings there. One of them getting injured for a couple of months doesn't help things. So. Again, you look at tonight's game and you think to yourself, maybe United will do all right this season. You see them at home to Fulham, and as a Fulham side under Marco Silva, they'll go into that game thinking they have a chance to win. The fear factor's gone for Manchester United.
It's completely gone, so you never know what's going to happen. But what we do know what's going to happen in terms of Celtic.
Yeah. Massive.
And it's good news there.
Good news, particularly for Adam Ida. Obviously, getting that winner in the cup final was huge from him. It's an ongoing saga that went on a long time throughout the summer, but for him to secure that for a deal around 10 million, an Irish player at a Celtic is never a bad thing. And look, given the starts of the season already with Rangers, you do feel that there's another title in Celtic, and the big push from Brendan Rodgers will be European football this season and being able to progress in Europe, which they haven't been able to do under Ange, under Rodgers previously. Basically since the Neil Lennon days, they haven't been able to progress or get any sort of results in Europe. So that would be the frustration of Celtic. Can Adam Ida be the man who lead the line? Like, when I watch him for Ireland, I think he does a lot of the hard things really well, like the running into channels, the holding off the ball. If he can just add the goal like he got in the Scottish Cup final and just add that on a more consistent basis, I think he'll have a very good career at Celtic.
And of course, an 800 grand windfall for his old club, Corinthians.
Yeah,
because that's so happy days.
That was such a great story to read. Like, and it just shows you, for any clubs listening and you're losing your players, put in what might seem like tiny and like an ambitious clause that will get you something 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. We've seen it with Bowes and Evan Ferguson. They're just waiting for Brighton to sell for 100 million, and they'll get a few bob out of that.
A few bob, more than a few bob. Listen, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Thanks as always. Now, up next, we discuss how you and your children can stay safe and drug aware during the music festival season. Don't go anywhere.
You're very welcome back. Now, the country's biggest music festival kicks off in Stradbally, County Leash today, with an estimated 75,000 revellers expected to descend on Electric Picnic over this weekend.
But with 94% of festival goers admitting to using drugs, it's important to make informed decisions and to stay safe. And here with advice are psychotherapist Michael Ledden and Dr. Catherine Ledden, founding directors of the harm reduction service Psy Care Ireland. Thanks very much for being with us this morning. 94%. Seems very high. I mean, we all know people take drugs at festivals, but it seems like an awful lot.
Yeah, and I suppose that sort of survey is asked, have people ever used drugs at festivals? But I suppose it also revealed that, you know, high numbers also revealed polydrug use, like mixing different types of drugs, mixing alcohol and drugs. So, I mean, from what we find in the field and what other surveys have found since, it's very clear there's an extremely high proportion of people who use drugs and or alcohol at festivals.
Yes. Catherine, clearly this shows Ireland's changed relationship with drugs over recent years.
Certainly, yeah. And I think that particularly when you look at like the change of pricing of alcohol, I've heard reports that many young people just actually turn to using substances because they can't afford, I guess, like a naggin or, you know, a pack of beer is more expensive. And also because of the increasing availability of drugs. But I think it's also due to changing attitudes as well. And I suppose people want to connect with their friends, but what we see is that unfortunately for a very small number of people, it can often go wrong and they can end up feeling overwhelmed or upset, and sometimes they can find themselves in physically dangerous situations. So that's kind of what prompted us to do this as festival goers ourselves for many years. You know, we'd be at festivals and saying to ourselves afterwards, like, God, like that person could have used somewhere to go, but people are reluctant because of the stigma that's still out there.
Yeah, so for people who are going to Electric Picnics this weekend, like what is going to be there? And like you say, it's kind of a weird change in attitude in that on one hand you're not condoning drug use, but on the other you have to accept, look, it is happening, Michael.
Yeah, 100%. And as well, you know, festivals are really overstimulating places, you know, 3 days where it's very hard to get sleep, very, very loud, big crowds, on top of all the substance use, and there's bars as well, you know, plays into that as well as the substances people are using. So I suppose anyone can have a mental health issue at any time there. And I suppose, yeah, our service is there for that. But at Electric Picnic specifically this weekend, there will be the HSC there doing drugs testing and outreach. Like they'll be there to have conversations with people around safer using practices or, you know, harm reduction. I believe there's also going to be a welfare in the Jimi Hendrix campsite where people can be brought. But as well, you know, if you're feeling bad, we always say go to a medic as well. Medics aren't there to judge you. You know, you can go into a medic even if you've taken something, and they're just, you know, going to be concerned about your well-being, not about getting someone in trouble.
Catherine, there's a lot in the news today. I think the Gardaí put out a warning themselves around synthetic drugs, that they're a big worry this year. What should people do if they are worried about this?
Yeah, so I suppose first and foremost it's to like be aware that any substance that you purchase might not be what you think it is. Even the person selling it to you might not know what it is, and that is often the case. So I suppose it's to be very aware that these drugs can often be stronger and have longer duration of action compared to maybe something they've taken before. So we would often recommend to people to start with a really, really slow dose. And again, we don't condone drug use, but we acknowledge that people are going to do it. And then also looking after your friends, keeping an eye on, say if there's a group of you taking pills, for example, or MDMA, keeping an eye on who's in the group and how is each person doing. And the second thing, I suppose, would be to avoid mixing substances together if at all possible, and to look out for things that are unexpected. So looking out for things particularly with, I suppose, the most common synthetic drugs that we would see would be ones that are sold as MDMA, and then you have like synthetic cannabinoids, which are, you know, sold as cannabis products. So looking for more intense effects than you would typically expect, longer duration of action, and just taking the time to just check in with yourself and just be aware of how you're feeling.
The interaction between different drugs, there is an online tool that you can use if people are maybe reluctant to go to someone at a festival or think, oh, there's guards hanging around here, they pick me up. They can put in, it's actually, used it online this morning, that here's, you know, what happens when you mix cocaine and alcohol, for example, which is something a lot of people might do and is really bad, really dangerous. Yeah,
we were recently doing a video on that, and we were talking about how when you mix those two substances together, you get a new compound produced in the body called cocaethylene, and it's way more toxic for your heart. And also when people mix alcohol and cocaine, they end up feeling more awake, so they might end up drinking longer and more amounts than what they usually would. So I suppose the key harm reduction message there is to take a break. Take a break. Notice that if you have an urge to redose, like just check in with yourself, like, do I need to do this? Making sure that you get enough sleep. And again, looking after your friend. And if you do feel unwell, first and foremost, you know, keep an eye on your physical health. Go to a medic. Don't be ashamed. You know, if there's really nothing to be embarrassed about, medics have seen everything you can imagine before. And then go to welfare. Go to welfare. They're there to look after you.
Yes. And Michael, I'll just ask you, why are welfare services so important at festivals, and should they be at every festival?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge piece that, like, a mental health thing can happen any time, and we are pretty good with, you know, always having medics and security there. But, you know, the mental health side, as kind of in wider society as well, can sometimes get a little bit brushed aside. But, you know, these kind of crises do happen. And for people, even knowing that there's a welfare there can often be really reassuring. That like, oh, I felt bad and I knew there was a place I could go, even if I didn't need to go. I knew I could go. And, you know, do they need to be at every festival? I think particularly at music festivals, absolutely, 100%. Because, you know, people, again, are there for 3 days at a time and it puts huge strain on their mental health. But I mean, even recently, I was at, you know, this summer I was at gigs in Cumain, I'm at St. Anne's and up in Malahide. And even at those, you know, just day concerts, I could see people struggling kind of all around me, you know. So I think even just having a little bit of a welfare component, even at those kind of spaces, you know, why not? I suppose would be maybe my question, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Very important stuff to chat about today. Thanks a million.
Thank you very
Absolutely,
much.
and yeah, really hit that advice, stick with your friends, because we all have those friends who tend to go wandering as well, you know, and that's when you get into a little bit of trouble. Can't you send them the text from the side stage, where are you? I'm at this lamp, you know. Exactly, you could slip an AirTag into their shoe or something. Michael and Catherine, thanks a million. For more information on how to keep yourself at festivals, go to psycareireland.org.
Still to come, podcasting superstar Vogue Williams.
And Fiachna Ó Braonáin of the Hot House Flowers. Don't go anywhere.
You're very welcome back to Ireland AM. I hope you're having a lovely Friday morning wherever you are.
Still to come, part rock and roller, part radio host, Hot House Flower Fiachna Ó Braonáin tells us about almost 4 decades with the iconic Irish band.
We chat to the man who left the stage for the page, author of the book of the summer evenings and weekends. Oisín McKenna joins us later.
And she's one of the biggest names in Irish broadcasting. Vogue Williams tells us about her hectic summer.
As Síomha is in the kitchen, and it's like the Olympics never ended in there.
Yes, guys, the Olympics are over, but Emily à Paris is the new fad taking France by storm. We're celebrating the show's return with a bit of French baking in the kitchen. Karina Camarino, what are we making today?
We are making lavender honey madeleines. So I'm just going to pop these in the oven so that they're ready for you to taste as I demonstrate.
Lavender honey?
Lavender honey.
Délicieux.
Délicieux.
What do you think, guys?
Bon appétit.
I think I probably should have done French for the Leaving Cert after all.
I did French for the leaving.
Do you remember any of it?
Un petit peu. Où est le centre Georges Pompidou? Etc. and so forth.
Bibliothèque.
Deric, what are you up to this morning?
Yeah, good morning, team. Welcome down here to Clondalkin in West County Dublin. We have landed down here at the Irish, look at this, School of Wrestling. He's got the man behind it all is Joey Garvey. Joey, how long are you up and running?
We're up and running about 5 years, but we're in this premises for about maybe 4 months.
Okay, so you were in Dublin when you've moved out here to Clondalkin now.
Yeah.
In terms of the split then, in boys and girls, how many members have you got?
About 50 members, but we've members from all over Europe that have moved to Dublin just to train here at the facility.
Okay, great. We're going to be having a morning of wrestling, I believe, a little bit later on.
We sure are, yeah. You ready?
Well, I think I am ready because Joey already gave me my mask, guys. So I'll prepare the outfit over the coming hours, but for now, back to you in studio. Take a look at this. Take a look.
Wow.
Oh.
Better you than me, Deric. Better you than me.
You'll have the little mask, you'll have the little drawers. It'd be lovely, maybe the little matching socks.
Skin
I
tight.
can't wait.
What you call wrestler lycra. That's what he needs.
I'm sure he... Oh, don't encourage him.
Okay.
Don't encourage him, Sean, for God's sake. Anyway, more from Deric a little later on. Now we'll have another look at your morning paper, starting with the Irish Times. Its headline reads, concern over construction quality at Children's Hospital. It goes on to report that concerns around the construction quality in parts of the new National Children's Hospital were flagged with senior government officials in a report which also warned of continued timeline uncertainty around the completion of the development.
Cuckoo Fund tries to sell 120 homes amid poor returns. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. The paper writes that a Cuckoo Fund that bought up hundreds of distressed Irish properties is trying to offload up to 120 of them because they weren't making a good return.
The Examiner leads with the world must be ashamed. It reports that more than 40,000 people have been killed in the Israeli war in Gaza, a milestone the world must be ashamed of, Taoiseach has said.
Onto the tabloids, and the Daily Mail opens with intimidation at Thornton Hall. It writes that Gardaí are set to retain a 24-hour presence at Thornton Hall, the state's newest and largest centre for asylum seekers, as security personnel on the site are now being stalked.
The Sun leads with Friends Matt, 2 docs charged. It reports that 2 doctors are among 5 suspects charged over the ketamine death of Friends actor Matthew Perry.
Herald staying with the same story with the headline, "With friends like these." It writes that 5 people have been charged in connection with Friends star Matthew Perry's death from an accidental ketamine overdose last October.
The Star leads with Electric Picnic OD alert. It reports that revellers at Electric Picnic are being warned of the dangers of lethal lab-made drugs being sold as party drugs after 11 prisoners were hospitalised in nearby Portlaoise this week after they overdosed on synthetic amphetamine.
And the Mirror leads with Callan kicks Tubbs. The paper writes that comedian Oliver Callan has gained more listeners than Ryan Tubridy had after taking over his RTE Radio 1 slot.
Now, guys, I am feeling extremely validated this morning.
Oh, why?
I am, yes. There is a study being covered in the Irish Daily Mail today around voice notes.
Oh, God, yeah.
And here's really why I feel validated. 75% of respondents, and this survey was conducted in Ireland, 75% of respondents think voice notes over a minute are unacceptable.
Preach.
Over a minute?
100%.
Over 10 seconds?
Yeah, well,
Well, no.
It's not a podcast, lads.
Well, I know, but they say a 99% found that voice notes over 3 minutes were absolute no-no.
If I saw a voice note 3 minutes long, that I'm never listening to it. That person has been blocked. You're out of my life. Forget it.
Some people, they just go along and you say, oh, I'm just giving a little soliloquy about my life.
Yes.
And I go walking down the street and there's a bird. Oop, there's a plane. Look, I tripped over my... I said, stop it, just say it.
Do you send voice notes?
No, very rarely. Sometimes I'll sing happy birthday in a voice note.
And
or
she
something
does
like
have
that.
a beautiful singing
I
voice,
do
in fairness.
not.
She really does. So I'd listen to that
something
now.
like that to
On
the,
the 1st
kids
December,
or
right, I'll be
something
waiting.
like that. But now, I like, just ring me if you need an interactive conversation.
Definitely.
Well, do you send voice notes, Sean?
I will send one if I am hungover, essentially, is the only. If I absolutely need to reply to something and I just cannot bring myself to do it.
The thumbs don't
all
work
right,
with the hangover.
how are you doing? No, no, it's not there. It's in the other drawer, like something like that. But no, I hate them. I hate getting them. I hate sending them.
So the kind of talking point around this is that young Gen Zers, they hate talking on the phone. They hate it, and they don't like voice notes either. So it's more millennials that are more likely to send and receive voice notes.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
That is
So hold on,
true.
Gen Z, you're afraid of voice notes and phone calls?
Yes.
They're afraid of talking?
20% of Gen Zers find it weird to receive calls at all.
What age is Gen Z now?
Gen Z is post-2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as in they were born post-2000?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So 77% of adults recorded and sent a voice note in the past year. I think we're talking millennials there.
Yeah.
And 33% said it was their main way to keep in touch with friends.
What? Voice note was the main way you keep in touch with friends. Psychopath. 33% of the population
are psychopaths.
And
You're diagnosing them now, Sean, are you?
100%. I'm getting in there.
WhatsApp groups are bad enough. Mm-hmm. And the nonsense in those is ridiculous at the best of times.
Yes.
Imagine adding voice notes into them. Oh my God, I sound like a boomer.
No.
And I'm not. I'm old. I'm not.
The saving grace around voice notes is the little button that makes you fast forward it to 1.5 or twice as fast.
At least 2.
At least 2.
Yeah.
The only thing is, it's gotten me into a habit whenever I'm speaking to someone who's a bit slower, I want to press the button. In real life, I want to 1.5 them. I'm like, come on, get to the point, you know?
My only problem with voice notes and sending them is my thumbs are very clumsy. So I actually tip, you know, you have to hold down the button
Well, you
on
don't.
WhatsApp.
You
Do
don't.
you not?
No, you can.
Oh, well, I've been doing it wrong.
Here
Maybe
we
I'm going
go.
to, maybe I'm a convert.
Classic millennial.
I have weird thumbs. Look.
No, not
Murderous
as quite
thumbs.
as you.
No, genuine.
I don't have the stats.
That's what they're called. Look.
Murderer thumbs.
Murderous
God.
thumbs.
And one more stat is that women are twice as much more likely to tolerate a voice note, with just 11% of men who will listen to a voice note beyond a minute.
Okay, is a voice note better than a DM slide?
Oh, well, don't you dare DM me. No, voice note me without a DM
is
slide
a DM
first.
slide not?
I think they're very
risque?
different things
Yeah, well,
now.
voice notes can be risque too.
Okay.
There we go.
What
We've
kind
just-
of
we've
voice
opened-
notes do you send?
Millennials, please get in touch with us. Why do you like voice notes so much?
Yeah, why are 33%?
You're a
people
millennial.
psychopaths?
I'm just reading the auto
You're
Elaine.
a
Well,
millennial.
yeah, okay. I'm shamed for other millennials at the moment.
I'm a zennial.
After the break, we are chatting to the man who kept us rocking for nearly 40 years. Not necessarily all millennials, by the way. Yes, I could.
Not all millennials. Hashtag.
Hashtag not all millennials. That hothouse flower Fiachna Ó Braonáin is in the house. Don't go anywhere.
Boom.
That is, of course, Don't Go by the Hothouse Flowers, one of the iconic Irish rock tracks of all time.
And one of the flowers, Fiachna Ó Braonáin himself, joins us now ahead of their nationwide tour. Welcome to the show, Fiachna.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here in your lovely outdoor space here.
Yeah, fresh air.
Fresh air.
Yeah. It's a bit chilly though. We might need a blankie.
No,
there's a nip in the air. How are you going to? It's 40 years now. How are you going to celebrate the old midlife crisis for the hothouse flowers?
Goodness me, we're keeping it at bay. You know, keeping it as far away as we can. We're touring. The phone doesn't stop ringing, and gigs happen, and you know, we have no master plan, we've no major strategy except getting on stage and creating a bit of magic every night.
Isn't that brilliant though?
It's simple as that.
Yeah.
You know?
Brilliant. Do you still get the same buzz?
Totally. Because we kind of keep it fresh by keeping it different every night because there is no plan. You know, we get literally sometimes we don't know what the first song is going to be. I'm not joking you. Which, I mean, it sometimes drives me mad and sometimes absolutely fills me with wonder. But yeah, we have a whole bunch of shows coming up soon. You know, we're going to be, where are we? In Vicar Street. Very shortly, on the 31st, which is Saturday week. We are going to be down in Waterford at the Christ. That's a food festival, a nice festival in Waterford on the 7th of September.
Waterford man speaking, not biased. Best food festival in Ireland.
Well, Christchurch Cathedral, I think, is the venue there.
Gorgeous venue.
And then we've a bunch of shows towards the end of the year and into next year, Cork and Wexford and Kilkenny, the Leisureland in Galway, where we haven't played in years. And then myself and Tom Dunn and Alan Connor have been doing lots of shows together as well.
That sounds like trouble.
It is trouble. It's good trouble. It's good fun. So we're in the venue in Ratoath, for example, on the 14th of September. And on from there.
It's the golden age of Irish music, really, when something happens yourselves. It's just a very special time, wasn't it?
Well, the whole thing with Tom, I've known Tom for nearly 40 years, nearly as long as we've been in bands. And we sort of fell into one another's company and ended up, you know, we were on the Ray D'Arcy show, on the radio show, promoting the first gig after COVID a couple of years ago. And the voices blended and we just, you know, we said, we've got to do this on a stage somewhere soon. So here we are 2 years later, doing lots of shows.
Are you working on a podcast as well?
Yes, yeah. We've been demoing. We've been demoing and conceptualizing and trying to find the right title and all that. So hoping to launch that in the autumn.
Yeah. How has touring sort of changed? Because, like, I was wondering about this. You obviously started the way a lot of bands started, and they started busking, people heard you, you got invited to do gigs and everything else. And now it's kind of so different. Everything is social media for people who are starting out now. So do you think if you were starting again, would it all go the same way, or is it just totally different?
I guess if we were starting again, you know, there'd be phones out and people would be filming us and all that. That didn't happen at all then. There was no internet when we started busking. So it was very much by word of mouth. But I mean, social media is word of mouth as well still. So it's effectively the same thing. I mean, you know, the touring vehicles have perhaps become less comfortable. But, you know, we soldier on.
It's like, where is my trailer?
Where's my tour bus, my bunker? We still tour on tour buses. If we go, you know, we did a UK tour last summer and, you know, you get on the sleeper coach and that's great. That becomes your home then for the time you're away. But here, you know, we tend to just drive to and from the gigs. Or
Glastonbury, though, you're just back from there. What was that like?
Well, we played at Glastonbury Abbey, which is a festival that's run by the Glastonbury Festival. So the big Glastonbury Festival.
It's kind of like the Fringe, is it?
It's actually payback to Glastonbury Town. Because the Glastonbury Festival happens in a place called Pilton. So the people of Glastonbury Town, 5 miles down the road, said, hang on a minute, you've just nicked our name, you know? So for quite a while now, the Evises who run the Glastonbury Festival have been running this little festival at Glastonbury Abbey. Beautiful, beautiful venue. So we were there just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was nice.
And we've played Glastonbury Festival loads of times as well.
Hopefully. Loads of times,
yeah.
Veteran it.
Do you ever, obviously don't go as the big hit, you know, that you introduced there. Do you ever get sick of it?
One of several.
One of several, but I suppose it was...
Do not suggest there are one hit wonder.
No, I suggested that for a second. But, you know, people... I've often found when I'm interviewing artists and they have kind of a big song, they have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it sometimes. You know, I was interviewing Mark McCabe recently, who kind of hates Maniac 2000, even though it made him, you know. So do you have that relationship with it, or is this still a love affair?
Not at all. It changes, you know, the way we play it changes from night to night. And look, that song has been incredibly good to us. It's a joyous song. It's a celebration of somebody who was leaving the world, but it's also a celebration of nature and of children and of life, you know. So we don't get sick of it at all. We don't get sick of any of our songs. We're lucky, you know. Yeah. I can understand that people would, and the pressure to play the same song over and over again, but we don't feel that, you know.
Do you have a particular favourite? or one that consistently gives you joy?
Sweet Marie is a song on our second album. Is a beautiful love song. It's one of the quieter songs, and it was recorded in a kind of a pin drop moment in the studio. And not to get too technical, it didn't go to the multi-track, so there was no way of mixing it afterwards. So just what was recorded, and that we were almost like testing the sound, and that's the version that ended up on the record.
Very unusual for that
it
to
is,
happen in
yeah,
a studio
it is. So
situation.
that's a favourite because there's a bit of magic to it.
Yeah, and once you get that perfect take, that's it.
Yes.
It happens very rarely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How have you sort of changed? Because like nearly 4 decades, not to make you feel old, we were talking about age off air, but like no one is the same 5 years as who they were 5 years ago. So how have you and how Hot House Flowers kind of changed over that time musically?
Musically, I think we've just become more and more adventurous and more fearless. And, I guess the intuition that you have with one another as musicians becomes higher.
Right.
So we read off each other and we bounce off each other. And we've always done that. That's always been part of how the band plays. And but that just gets kind of braver or something, or maybe more foolish. I don't know, But it becomes more fine-tuned the older you get, I think. We listen to each other more when we're on stage. I guess perhaps we don't because we've all got family lives and all sorts of busy lives outside of it. We cherish that moment that we're on stage together because we don't get to hang out with each other as the mates. We're still great pals. We're heading off today down to West Cork. We're going to play 2 nights in Connolly's and Lepp, the fabled Connolly's and Lepp tonight and tomorrow night. So we can't wait. We're going to be together for a couple of days, and that's going to be fantastic.
And when you do gigs like that and you kind of get back to the OG gang, I mean, what's it like? Are you going down from the olden days when you were like on the bus together and maybe going down individually now? Was there like any like famous fallouts or anything like that, or are you all just chill?
Listen, we got to a point almost 30 years ago where we were a bit burnt out by the relentless touring. We were away most of the year, and then we started to have young families and so on, and it started just the grind started to take its toll a little bit. So we took a year off in the mid-90s, and that was the only conscious time that we said, look, we've got to stop, we've got to take our ship into dry dock for a while, and as Liam put it very well, let 4 seasons go by in the one place. And that was very important. It allowed us to kind of reconnect. But that now, 30 years past, that was 1994. That is 30 years ago. So, and ever since then, we've been, I guess, doing it on our own terms, which is important.
And you've stepped away from late days on Radio 1 as well. Is that kind of in that things were a bit mad with all the touring and everything?
Spinning too many plates, lots of shows, all the touring. And of course, lots of shows, particularly gigs in Ireland or gigs nearly everywhere, happen at the weekends. And my radio slot was at the weekends as well. So there was always a bit of push and pull, So, but I love radio, and I love that community that we built up on Late Date as well, which is, goes back to way before my time there. Yeah. But it's, and that community has become global as well. So a lot of people who listened to Hot House Flowers over the years would tune into the radio show, and that was gorgeous. So look, I hope to get back on air at some point, when life allows it.
Yeah, beautiful resonant voice, but I suppose more known for your musical skills as well. Would you grace us with a tune?
I would be delighted to.
What are you going to delight us?
We're
very excited.
The world's most portable, one of the world's most portable instruments. What shall we do? I'm heading off to Cork, so the Star of Munster. With that,
that will do very well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dan Lay and Roddy McCauley and all that, but the Star of Munster. Let's do that.
Fine. Brilliant. God, it brings me back to my primary school days. Could never play like that, though.
Gets us moving.
Sure, who needs EP? We're out here at the sun and we got the whistle and we're sorted.
Mini festival.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And of course, you can catch Fiachna and the rest of the Flowers at Vicar Street on August 31st or later in the year as they commence their nationwide tour. Tickets are available now at hothouseflowers.com.
Stay with us. We are baking like the French in the kitchen after this. Au revoir.
I think it should be.
Bonjour, mes amis. Yesterday saw the grand return of Netflix's ultimate guilty pleasure, Emily Ó Paris. So, of course, we had to celebrate.
And here to add a bit of je ne sais quoi to the kitchen this morning is Chef Carina Camerino from the Camerino Cafe and Bakery. They could literally put anything in French in this autocue and I would say it not knowing what I'm saying.
I have done that. Yes.
It's like a Ron Burgundy, in Paris moment.
Absolutely. But Carina actually can speak French and can bake, luckily for us. Good morning, Carina.
Good morning. Good morning. I've been in Ireland for close to 25 years, so my French is a little bit rusty.
Better than ours. Still better than ours.
100%.
You're top heavy on the puns. What do I have left for my je ne sais quoi? I was going to use that later.
Oh, sorry, I got it there ahead of you.
Jessie, désolé.
There you go.
Très bien. 10 points. I am making for you the perfect treat to go along with your viewing of Emily à Paris, which are madeleines, which are a French, they're, I would say in the cookie category, although they are spongy, like a little sponge. They're in the shell shape. They are made in this very special mold. There's only one way to make it, and it's in this special mold in the shell shape.
Okay, so if they're not in this shape, they're not madeleines.
They're not madeleines. Okay. I mean, I'm sure they're delicious. They're just call them something else.
Okay.
Spongy breakfast cookies. So for this, the first thing I'm going to do is I've browned the butter, a beurre noisette, if you will. So what we do is we heat up the butter to the point where it starts to chemically change. It starts to go foamy, and then the foam dissipates, and then what's left is this brown, golden color butter, and it actually imparts more of a nutty flavor, a deeper flavor. If you want to skip that step, you could. The cookies, the madeleine will still work, but this really adds
the je ne sais quoi.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to start by, I'm going to whisk my eggs. So I have 5 whole eggs in here. I have my vanilla, and I'm going to add just 1 egg yolk for a little bit of extra richness.
Okay, so just the yolk for the last one.
Just the yolk. I'm just going to discard the white here.
Oh, look, like a pro.
Oh.
Honestly. And not even one bit of shell.
Ta-da! And then I just whisk that up, and I'm going to set it aside.
I love these biscuits. Have you had them? Or these?
I have.
They're so
delicious.
good.
Now, the ones I'm making today are made with a lavender honey because I was thinking French, let's bring a bit of Provence into this. I have some lavender from the garden this morning and bees that, I was going to say graze. You know, they...
pollinate.
Pollinate, thank you, on lavender. It imparts a really lovely floral lavender flavor to the honey. So I have an Irish wildflower honey today.
Okay.
This will work with other kinds of honey, but this adds just something a little bit special.
So that's what the lavender, they pollinate from the lavender, not that they put lavender into the honey.
Exactly.
Okay, because I've never heard of lavender honey.
They have orange blossom honey. They have different kinds of honey. In fact, even I was at a general supermarket yesterday getting some of the bits and bobs, and they had all these different varieties of Irish honey you can choose because it depends on where the hive is.
Right.
And
it's
it'll
meant to
have
be
different
getting
flavors.
local honey is meant to be really good for
Yes.
avoiding sickness
Yes.
because they are whatever's in the air. If you are, you have trouble with pollen or whatever, if you eat the local honey, it makes you less likely to
There you go.
get your hay fever on.
Yep. So I'm going to sift together. I have castor sugar and I have brown sugar. I'm going to sift them together just to make sure that I don't have any lumps because I want a nice and smooth batter.
And could you use just one of them, or do you need both types of sugar?
I mean, you could. It'll work in terms of sweetness, but the brown sugar adds a lovely color. Too much of that will be too dark.
Yeah, okay.
Not enough of it will be quite light. So they'll still be delicious, but it does change the look a little bit.
Okay.
I have the zest of 1 lemon I'm going to add to that, and that's really for a flavor that lifts it a little bit.
Gorgeous.
So I'm just taking the upper top layer of the lemon.
Are these very popular in France?
These are very popular, and they're baked in the morning. And like by the afternoon, they're really not as good. It's like a scone.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say by the afternoon, they're all
They're gone, yeah.
They're probably all gone.
They will be in here anyway.
100%.
So I'm going to add these two together, the egg and the sugar.
So if you're making these, really make them for the day you're having them. Don't be putting them in the cupboard for 2-3 days. They're not going to be as nice.
No. But this is a batter that you make in advance and you chill overnight. So you don't have to invest all of this time on the day that you want to bake them. And then I'm going to add in my flour.
And is this self-raising or do we have another raising agent?
This is plain flour. We have baking powder here as the raising agent. We have some milk powder.
Ooh.
Yes, you can get this at the Asian supermarket.
Okay. And is that instead of putting like actual milk in?
Yes, and we don't want to add any more liquid to what we've got going on here.
Got you.
But
God, it's like chemistry, isn't
I
it?
know, isn't it?
It is chemistry. So you want the lactose without the liquid. We stir this up and we add the butter after that.
Okay.
And you're going to chill it overnight. And that's going to allow the butter to set up so that you can pipe them nicely in your tin. I'm going to skip straight ahead to my Madeleine shell tins.
Yeah.
You're going to want to butter them, or if you have this like cake release spray, because they will get sticky in there.
Okay.
And then the batter, after it's been chilled overnight, I put it in a piping bag. You can also use spoon. And we're going to pipe it 3/4 of the way full.
Okay.
Okay, because it'll
raise the rest,
yes,
is it?
Yes.
Like, here we are. Something like that.
God, that looks something very satisfying about that, isn't it?
There is, yeah. It also looks a lot easier than I would make it.
I know, yeah.
I think it's really this easy. I think like having the equipment is like part of what makes it easy, you know?
Yeah.
Having the right tin, having the brush and all.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, your piping is just a bag, is it?
It's just a bag, and you can use a sandwich bag with the corner cut off as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you taste. After 15 minutes, you come out with these biscuity cookies.
Only 15?
Only 15 minutes. They're very small and they
what
cook
temperature?
very quickly. At 160 degrees.
160, okay.
Do you want to give these a taste
I
and
thought
see what
you'd
you
never
think?
asked.
Over,
yeah,
yes. We've
yeah,
been
yeah.
eyeing them
yes,
all
we have.
morning.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, they are quite soft. They are spongy. Yeah.
The lemon is
The lemon
divine,
just
isn't it?
levels that up. The je ne sais quoi
The
is in the lemon.
So when did you put the honey in?
Oh, I'm sorry. The honey went in with the
Honey went
with
in
the
while we weren't
eggs and
looking.
the vanilla.
Okay. And if you weren't making it lavender honey, are there other flavours you could add?
Absolutely. So you can use any other kind of mild honey if you like. You can use, I've used it with maple syrup before as well. That's a really nice touch.
And bit of chocolate, chocolate dipped on it, no?
Absolutely.
Really, would the French allow that?
Yeah, you could do a little white chocolate. They dip it maybe sometimes like halfway this way or
yeah,
halfway
there we
this way.
Now
Do
you're
little
talking.
crumble nuts. You can even hide a little berry inside. So at this stage, you can pop a little berry in the center and then bake it so that you have a little surprise in the middle if you want.
My one issue is they're very Moorish. I'm going to
I
have to
could eat
have
this whole
about 3
plate.
or 4 more. Karina, thank you so much
My
for that.
pleasure.
Thanks,
Full
Elaine.
recipe details are up on our website. You can find more from Karina at the Irish Museum of Modern Art in Kilmainham and at Camerino Bakery on Instagram.
Now, author of Evenings and Weekends, Oisín McKenna, is up next after the break.
So good.
You're very welcome back to Ireland AM. Set largely over one sweltering June weekend in London, our next guest's novel, Evenings and Weekends, has become one of the breakout hits in the UK bestsellers charts this summer.
Joining us now is the Irish author of what some call the book of the summer, Oisín McKenna. Welcome to the show, Oisín.
Hi.
Good morning.
So lovely to have you here.
It is great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So, for those at home who haven't had the chance to snatch it off the shelves just yet, tell us what is Evenings and Weekends about?
Yeah, sure. So I would describe it as it's a sort of multi-generational community drama set in London over the course of one weekend, and it follows the lives of lots of different people in the city over the course of this weekend, during which kind of various like life-changing events happen for them. So, for example, there's Maggie, who's 30 and pregnant. She can't really afford to raise the kid in London, so she's moving back to her hometown. Her partner, Ed, has got a sort of secret history with her best friend, Phil. Phil, is in this sort of ambiguous love affair with one of his housemates, while his mother, who's an Irish woman who moved to England in the 70s, is travelling to the city to tell him about a cancer diagnosis. So all this drama is unfolding. All the while, there's a whale stuck in the banks of the Thames, which kind of all the characters interact with in different ways over the course of the novel.
So when you have so many strands weaving in and out of the narrative, I mean, I know you've said it took 5 years to write. Was there a moment when it all made sense to you, or was there going back over and over again and trying to get all the pieces to work together?
Yeah, there was a moment where it made sense, but it was pretty close to the end. Like, I was working on the book probably for 2 or 3 years before it really kind of started to work at all. And there was really long periods of time where I felt, you know, it was never going to work, but it kind of felt like too late to turn back. Like I'd, you know, already put too much time into it, and it was easier to keep going than to, you know, to give up. But I think the kind of whale idea, that didn't come until like pretty late in the process. And once that came, it kind of, I don't know, yeah, all the rest of the plot was able to hang on it, which made it much easier.
Which actually is probably the seminal moment of it for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
A metaphor for the whole lot.
Yeah,
Really.
I know.
exactly,
I love the idea of that. It's so visual as well. It grips you from the very start. Many are calling this book an eye-opening exploration of the queer experience. Is this sort of book something that you wish was available to you while you were discovering yourself and growing up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, kind of looking back to the books I read when I was a kid and a teenager, like there was, I mean, yeah, it was really rare. I mean, in fact, it never really happened where I like quite saw somebody like myself in literature. And that, I mean, that didn't mean that I didn't have like amazing reading experiences. Like often would read about people who were like unlike me in the sense of, you know, age, gender, nationality, whatever, but would find that there was like emotional experiences that these characters would have that were resonant with my own. And I think that's one of the amazing things about literature is its kind of capacity to, you know, cultivate empathy. But at the same time, yeah, absolutely. I think it would have meant like quite a lot to me to read about people who were, you know, like me in those ways growing up.
Yeah. There's a very special relationship as well between Maggie and Phil in this. Tell us about that and why it's important for you to portray that sort of relationship.
Yeah, sure. So Maggie and Phil, our character, they grew up together, so they've known each other from the same town since the time that they were really, really young, so kids. Phil is a gay guy, Maggie's a straight woman. And I was kind of interested in telling a story like that in the sense that like those kinds of relationships for me were like so formative growing up, continue to be really formative. Like so much of the really important relationships in my life are, you know, with women, you know, straight women, queer women, which have, I don't know, yeah, I think that there's something like beautiful and rich and really like important in those relationships. Like I found definitely growing up that my relationship, you know, with you know women and girls when I was a teenager really kind of like were the kinds of relationships through which I was able to like be myself, you know.
Is there kind of a safety and an empathy that you experience within those?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of hard to like say exactly what the kind of reason for that is or what that quality was, but kind of because I didn't really, well, it wasn't when I was a teenager. I went to an all-boys school and I didn't really know any girls until I was maybe in third year, and I made friends with in like other girls' schools in the town, and like kind of like within like kind of like 2 weeks of like making friends with like girls, I like came out within like 2 weeks, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That support was there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a big deal.
I think it's beautiful. They're some of the most important relationships in my life as well. There's something so enriching about them.
Yeah.
But talk to us, Oisín, about, you're from just outside Drogheda.
Yep.
You now live in London. Were you always itching to leave?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. When I think, I mean, I had a sort of, like my experience growing up, it was a real sort of mixed bag in lots of ways. Like I say, I did have these like really lovely friendships, but at the same time, I mean, there were lots of things that were really hard about it and lots of, yeah, I think, I mean, I didn't leave like right away. So I moved to Dublin when I was maybe 20 and stayed there until I was 26 and had like a really good time there as well. But kind of, I think by the time I was that age, like a lot of people I know had left. And I think I always had this kind of fear of being like the last one left or something. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
The FOMO was real.
Yeah, the FOMO, exactly. And it was good for me, like moving to London. Like it was scary at the start, but yeah.
Even though it's so close, but it seems so far away culturally as well, because of course the gay scene is so much more open and different over there as well. But when you look back since you've left and you plonk yourself back in Ireland, be it Drogheda or anywhere else, has anything changed even in that short time for you? Yeah,
it's interesting. Like in some ways, yeah. I mean, I feel Dublin, like the sort of, I guess maybe the sort of culture scene in Dublin or the nightlife scene, I think has probably changed quite a lot in the sense of like places closing down. Like I think when I was living in Dublin, a lot of the places that I would have went to are gone now. It's sort of Yeah, it's hard to say. I think maybe in lots of ways they've stayed the same, but in like lots of important ways they're different as well.
Yeah.
Oisín, this book is being hailed as one of the books of the summer. What's one of the biggest takeaways you hope people take from the reading of the book?
Yeah, well, I think for me, a lot of the kind of big emotional content of the book is to do with how hard it is to communicate, even among people who really love each other, have really intimate relationships. For like lots of different reasons, people kind of grow up, reach adulthood without the like means to really kind of say what they mean, to really feel kind of understood. And I guess like part of the place the book gets to is that even if people struggle to like say that they love and care for others with like words, with like verbal words, that often through like lots of other more subtle means, through gestures, people are expressing those things, and that is also good and okay. And even if like they struggle to say those words out loud, it doesn't mean that it's not understood, and it doesn't mean that intimacy doesn't exist. So I think, yeah, maybe that.
You can interpret someone's love language in different ways.
Exactly,
Someone could be saying I love you from other people, could be making you a nice cup of tea.
Exactly, yeah.
Oisín, thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck with the book.
Thanks for having me.
Lovely chatting.
Yeah, lovely to chat to you.
You can catch Oisín's interview with Tom Dunn for May's episode of What's the Story on Virgin Media Player, and Evening and Weekends is available in your local Easons store and online at easons.com.
Now, still to come, brace yourselves. Yep, Deric goes all WWE on us. In a leotard, we're told.
And Vogue Williams joined us, though probably not in a leotard.
Who knows? You never know on this show. Anyway, see you in 3.
Good morning. Hope you can settle down with us for another hour of Friday fun here on Ireland AM.
I just found out he has 2 pairs of Crocs at
Two
home.
pairs.
2 pairs of Crocs. How
One for
controversial.
upstairs, one for outside.
Now, she's an author, a chart-topping podcaster and a beauty boss. Vogue Williams tells us how she's getting on with her next big challenge, radio.
And Síomha is in the garden. What brings you out there? What have we got going on?
Síomha and Sean, our garden extraordinaire Niall Macaulay is turning up the heat with some summer colour in the garden. Isn't that right, Niall?
Sure is. It is a great time to get lots of colour into your garden. That's not going to make it just look great now, but it's going to look amazing all the way through the autumn, right to the first frosts. And just look at what we've got.
I know. They're so vibrant. And have you got a pair of Crocs for the garden?
Yeah, I do.
It does. Apparently, that's what it is. OK, we'll each have to get our own pair of Crocs for the garden.
Now we'll have a final check on your morning paper, starting with the Irish Times. Its headline reads, concern over construction quality at Children's Hospital. It goes on to report that concerns around the construction quality in parts of the new National Children's Hospital were flagged with senior government officials in a report which also warned of continued timeline uncertainty around the completion of the development.
Cuckoo Fund tries to sell 120 homes amid poor returns. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. The paper writes that a Cuckoo Fund that bought up hundreds of distressed Irish properties is trying to offload up to 120 of them because they weren't making them a good return.
The Examiner leads with the world must be ashamed. It reports that more than 40,000 people have been killed in the Israeli war in Gaza, a milestone that the world must be ashamed of, the Taoiseach has said.
Onto the tabloids, and the Daily Mail opens with intimidation at Thornton Hall. It writes the Gardaí are set to retain a 24-hour presence at Thornton Hall, the state's largest and newest centre for asylum seekers, as security personnel on the site are now being stalked.
The Sun leads with Friends Matt, 2 dogs charged. It reports that 2 doctors are among 5 suspects charged over the ketamine death of Friends actor Matthew Perry.
The Herald also opening with that story with the headline, "With Friends Like These." It writes that 5 people have been charged in connection with Friends star Matthew Perry's death from an accidental ketamine overdose last October.
The Star leads with Electric Picnic OD alert. It reports that revellers at Electric Picnic are being warned of the dangers of lethal lab-made drugs being sold as party drugs after 11 prisoners were hospitalised in nearby Portlaoise this week after they overdosed on synthetic amphetamine.
And the Mirror leads with Callan kicks Tubbs. The paper writes the comedian Oliver Callan has gained more listeners than Ryan Tubridy after taking over his RTE Radio 1 slot.
Now, earlier on, we were talking about voice notes as a new study has come out about people's habits around voice notes. 33% depend on voice notes for their favourite way to interact. And lots of people have texted about it.
They're not happy.
Well, some people aren't happy. I'm going to start with my favourite text in. This is from Lewis. Lewis, we're kindred spirits. He said, I love WhatsApp voice notes as I love listening back to my own voice and love a good 5-minute voice note. Now, 5 minutes, I don't, but I do listen back to my own voice notes.
Do you really? What did you say in the break? You go, ha, ha, ha,
I'll be like,
so funny.
Yeah, I'll be like, that was a good one, Síomha. Yeah, I listen back to them. I listen to it like as if they're listening to it, like.
As in know your audience, like.
I can't think of anything worse. But we were saying, like, I hate listening to my own voice.
Yeah, I wonder.
And don't text in and say we hate listening to your own voice too, Elaine, please. I'm very delicate today. But you were saying it could be a radio.
Yeah, is it
thing?
a radio thing? Because you have to listen to your own voice so much. I hate it. You know, you have to just naturally in editing and doing all the rest that you have to. I couldn't listen back to myself. Not that I'd send a voice note anyway, but if I could, I wouldn't listen.
But this way, you listen to the voice note back. You get feedback. You can tweak it. Your next voice note will be even better. It's all about your performance, guys, of the voice note.
And this is why voice notes are absolutely horrendous unless you need to use them. And in which case, listen, we're not against voice notes if you have difficulty typing, if your eyesight isn't great, if you're cognitively impaired, whatever like that. Absolutely fine, work away, because Marianne does says they're useful for older people who have cognitive issues and find it harder to type a long text. Bear that in mind. That's absolutely fine. But like, if you're a healthy person of the age of 31, there's no need to be leaving a 2-minute voice note. Sure, there's not.
Agreed.
No.
Agreed.
Even if you wanted to listen back to it.
Sorry, why are you looking at me? I would never send a 2-minute voice note. Now,
30 seconds.
3 minutes only. 3 minutes plus
45 to 60 seconds. And,
timed perfectly.
And I would obviously cap it at 60 and do another one for 60 seconds rather than send a 2-minute.
So you do multiple voice notes? Are you one of these? Because I hate, you know, when you get multiple texts, instead of sending one long text, someone sends you 12 little mini things in a row. Do you do that with voice notes?
No. Just like, I'm just very aware of the 60-second time cap that I have on them, so I stick to it quite rigidly. Jolene, though, texts in saying, my fiance's first language isn't English, so typing a text message is harder for him to do. So voice notes are extremely handy for us in that regard. And that's very handy. A language barrier, yes.
That's fair. Other people agreeing with us. Emma says, I despise voice notes. I tolerate them if they're short, but don't expect me to listen to longer ones. And Evan saying I wouldn't listen to anything longer than 30 seconds.
But long ones about nothing. And it's fair enough. If you have a very entertaining story, like you clearly have when you're doing yours, knock yourself out of the park. You might be heard.
You know what you do with that? You start a podcast. That's what you do. If you've got a very interesting story, you start a podcast. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe that's what we need to do.
Dan says voice notes are great for multitasking when you have to let someone know something in a rush. I don't mind getting long ones. I'll listen to them while cooking or walking. So he literally uses them as podcasts.
Yeah, but we all have that one friend who does send podcasts instead of voice notes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a little short one. If your hands aren't full or your hands are full and you don't have time to text very enough. Short little bursts, you live with that, but not.
Okay.
In short, don't send us voice notes.
Yeah, not me anyway.
No, pretty much, no. Up next, we are making your gardens flourish with a burst of late summer colour. We'll see you after the break.
You're very welcome back. Our next guest is quite well known for her podcast, sold out 3 arena gigs and stellar TV work.
And now she's here to tell us about, among other things, her latest project on the wireless. Vogue, you're very welcome this morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. You've been sitting in for tubs.
I've been sitting in for the tubs. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
I listened to the opener. I was like, oh no, I'm not doing a radio job. I just look after Ryan's show when he's away, which suits me perfectly.
Part-time radio, just like you've known Nick Crawford now.
Do you know what? I have a lot on, and I love radio, and I'm really enjoying it in with them in Virgin, and it's on Q102 here, and it's so much fun. And I'll probably do more cover in there, but no, I'm not going to take on another job. I think it might be too much for me.
In fairness, you do have enough on your plate at the moment. My God, what a year it's been.
Yeah, it's been good. And I'm releasing another podcast in September, which is like, it's going to be called Never Live It Down. And it's me interviewing different guests and just really funny people. So that's been on the boil for a while. I've been working on that for about 6 months. So that comes out in September. So my focus is on that. I'm trying not to take on anything else.
Because so that's podcast number 3. You have one, of course, hugely successful. My Therapist Ghosted Me with Joanne McNally. Sold out the 3 arena. I don't know how many times now at this stage. You won the other half as well. So, I mean, are you sure you need to take on another one?
Do you know what? I love podcasting. I really enjoy it. I love chatting with people. I'm so incredibly nosy. And, and this is a way for me to be even nosier. But it's about interviewing people that ask them questions that they wouldn't normally get asked. So it's been really, really good so far. I've had a few good guests, loads of really amazing people lined up. So it will be a really fun one.
When you say never live it down, that's just my mind's gone to, is this like, what is your worst moment? What is the thing you're never going to live? Is that the premise?
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of talk about like times that you've found yourself feeling embarrassed and just different things, questions you'd never be asked in an interview. And it just kind of takes the conversation on a completely different path. And I've had a few comedians on so far, and obviously their stories are just completely wild. So it's just been like such a laugh to do that. And like when you're doing podcasting, you're just sitting having a conversation with people. And that's why I love it so much. Obviously, there's a lot of research that goes into it and researching the people that I have on, but that's the part I really enjoy as well. So it's kind of like a dream job.
Yeah. You give a lot of yourself in your podcast. So have you shared what you'll never live down?
I'm sure I will. There's a lot of things that I say that I'm like, oh God, I probably shouldn't have gone that far. But I think when you're podcasting, it's better to say everything that you want to say. And then I listen back to all the episodes on Spencer and Vogue and on My Therapist Ghosted Me and just kind of go along in the edit with Joe, and just if something doesn't sound right, might pull it back a little bit. So say it while you're there and then go with the edit and trim it.
Yeah, but you can't do in live radio, really.
No, not at all. But you know what? And it's as well, they kind of let you just go with it on Ryan's show. They're like, yeah, just talk about what you want. So I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. Perfect. That's why I'm having such a good time.
Let's talk about Spencer as well, right? Because I had this moment that I think every man in his early 30s has at some point, where I woke up a couple of days ago and I said, you know what? I want to run a marathon. Just seems to be something about having like an early 30s crisis. And then I read that Spencer was running 30 marathons in 30 days and I felt very insecure about myself.
I know.
How did you let him go and do that?
Do you know what? I didn't really consider how much time it would take away from the family, but like, it's a really, really amazing charity that he's doing it for, and he really wanted to do it. And I just thought, go ahead. I'm not even doing one single marathon with you. I've no desire to ever try and do a marathon. I did say I would do 5K a day for charity. He will be thrilled you put that picture up of him.
Yeah. In fairness, it's not a bad old picture.
You wouldn't kick him out of bed for eating crisp, no, to be fair.
I probably would, to be fair. I'm very clean and tidy, but I said to him as well, I was like, how are you going to come home and like start wearing clothes again? Like, you're going to have to put tops on. And he was like, I know, it's going to be a struggle. He's absolutely thrilled with his bod at the moment. It is looking good.
So tell us about London life now. I know you kind of go between London and Dublin now, but like, are you going to make the permanent move back, or what way is it looking for you? Are you happy to commute over and back?
Commuting works really well for us now. A lot of my work, I'd say 90% of my work is over in London at the moment. I love coming home. We've got our dream forever home in Ireland, and it's really important for me to bring the kids back as often as I can. So they're back with me now, and I'll bring them back on all their holidays and stuff like that. So we're going to be here a lot. We're going to spend a lot more time here, but we won't be moving back just yet.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, you are indeed a very busy working mother at that. So anything else, any other, like, you've done so much already. You've ticked the podcast, the radio box, TV presenting, of course. Is there anything else on the horizon that's on your bucket list that you'd like to do?
There certainly is. There's something I'm currently working on. There's two things I've been doing over the last year as well that I'm working on that are things that I've always wanted to do. But I'm also really lucky in the partnerships that I get to do. I'm currently working with Heinz and Bernardo's on an incredible campaign that they have going on, which is they're trying to bring families together at meal times, and Heinz do incredible work with Bernardo's, and they give a lot of money to Bernardo's through the beans that they sell in the supermarket. So working on little projects like that as well, really, like, I just love doing things like that. It's such a great thing to be a part of. I was with them last year, and I'm with them again this year, and I'd love to focus on doing a lot more things like that as well.
How do you get the kids focused away from screens? Because I know I even fall into it. You have something on in the background, or you're flicking on the phone or whatever when you're having dinner. How do you just make them all concentrate? No, we're having a bit of family time here.
Do you know what? It's really difficult. If you read the statistics on it, it's like so many people struggle to even sit down with their family once a day, which I understand, and have an uninterrupted mealtime. Ours are less about, I let mine have screens on a Saturday night at dinner, and like Theodore's always away asking me when it's Saturday because he loves it so much. But our interruptions are, Mommy, get me this, Mommy, get me that. Like, I could be up 15 times when we're having dinner. So that's our kind of interruptions. But we're all addicted to our phones. I'm addicted to my phone. And it's just about trying to be more mindful of it. Like, so I won't ever walk into the house on my phone. I try not to be on it around them too much, but sometimes like you've got work calls, you've got different things, and it can be difficult, but it's about trying to have more meal times. And I read one of the statistics was like you're 80% happier if you do try and sit and have one meal with your family. So that's the idea behind the campaign this year. And I loved it. And it really made me have a think and be like, God, I need to put the phone down, and like less screens for the kids. I have to do less screens because my kids they turn into monsters if they've had more than an hour a day. So we try to stick to half an hour.
But at least I suppose you have the flexibility within your job to do that and be able to take the time for meals, which I know a lot of busy working moms don't have. But like, it could have been worse for you. You could have been a quantity surveyor.
I don't think I ever would have made it to be a quantity surveyor. I didn't realise it was like an accountant of the building site. So I was just doing it because it got me back to Ireland. I loved my first degree that I did in construction design and management, but I came back to do quantity surveying and I was like, I don't get this. I am not good at this. And then, no, I didn't follow any of my classmates to Qatar because they all had to go and get a job over there because the building industry collapsed over here. So I stuck around Ireland and modelled for some burger shops and stuff. Just held out.
Very few things surprise me in this line of work now. When I heard you did quantity surveying, I was like, that is absolutely bonkers. Just shows how diverse your careers can be.
Well, no, I wanted to do, I had this great idea that I was going to do architecture in Trinity, but unfortunately, studying evaded me. So I think I got like half the points I needed. And there I was thinking I was off to Trinity. It never happened.
The amount of people who, particularly in the media, did something else or like wanted to do something else. Dermot Whelan studied archaeology, I think. I was very nearly an engineer. I was that close away from it, and I decided, no, I'll go into journalism. Much more money in journalism.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I did it all on purpose. What does that say about me?
Well, at least you were focused on one route. My stepdad, he's Scottish and he's really strict. So like when I was younger, he was like, no, you're not doing that. You have to get a degree. And so it was very important to him that I got a degree. And then he kind of was like, okay, well, there's no job. So I'll let you have a go of it for a while. And so I worked so hard. I was like, please let me do this. I really want to do it. So that's how I ended up getting into what I'm doing now.
Oh, well, it seems to be working out pretty well for you anyway. So you're flying. So no bother there. Vogue, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's lovely to talk to you. And wish Spencer the best of luck. And he's very physical endeavours. Not that he needs
You'll see a topless picture of him at some point today. So look out first.
Now, to find out more about donating, visit bernardos.ie. And don't forget, you can grab Heinz Means Meals cans from stores nationwide.
And next, Deric ditches the books for a leotard. Yes, a leotard.
This is the first. This is the first for Deric?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen Deric in a leotard before, but we're going to see it again, and even better. We join him on his first day of wrestling school after the break. Welcome back to Ireland AM. Our next challenger joins us from the Irish School of Wrestling in Kingswood.
Oh my God, weighing in at 500 pounds and hailing from Ballymount Industrial Estate.
Welcome to the ring, Deric, the Weatherman Hardigan.
Welcome down here, guys. We're not joking. Dublin 22. It's all about WrestleMania here this morning, and we're joined now by the one and only Joey Carberry and Katie Kennedy. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Joey, OTT WWE. Tell us what it's all about.
It started about 10 years ago, and now we are celebrating our 10th year anniversary in October. So it's amazing to see where Irish wrestling has progressed.
Now, you were based in Dublin 1, and you've moved out here to your brand new facility here in Clondalkin. How's the move been?
The move has been great. We have enough space here to set up 2 rings, so yeah, we're able to get more people training as well, so it's been a gift.
The sport is growing. How many members have you got at the moment?
We've 50 members at the moment, but we've students from all over. So we've Israeli students, French, Spanish, Italian, so yeah.
It's really, really good. Now, tell us about the sport itself, because it is a fantastic sport and so many people love and watch it.
Yeah, and it's amazing as well to see that wrestling's only been around for 20 years in Ireland, but we've already produced so many top talents like Sheamus, Finn Balor, Becky Lynch. These are like the faces of WWE, which is the biggest wrestling promotion in the world.
And you actually trained with Sheamus at one stage, right?
Yeah, both of us broke in around the same time 20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and from there, obviously, the sport has grown in huge popularity, not only here in Ireland, but in fact, you've competed right around the world.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to wrestle in Japan, Pakistan, everywhere in Europe. Yeah, very, very blessed in that aspect.
And we've some really big names coming through, including a young girl called Lyra. Tell us about her.
Well, Lyra would have got her start here in OTT, and she's progressed now to be on the big stage with WWE, and she's on TV every week. So it's amazing to see as well as somebody came from the grassroots of Irish wrestling has made it now to TV in America.
And I mean, some of the big names, we have Stone Cold, we've got Hulk Hogan, we've got The Rock. I mean, it's a great sport. It's all, we were talking about it actually, in the ring, it's all choreographed, right?
Yeah, more or less, but I mean, accidents do happen. It's quite a tough art form, as you would call it, yeah.
Now, moving over here to Katie Kennedy, the kitty cat Katie Kennedy. She said not to say it on air, but we're saying it on air. All the way from Ballahadreen in County Roscommon. Katie, how did you get involved in the sport?
So I first saw my OTT show in Comic-Con 2-3 years ago. I was working at Comic-Con and they were set up right across the room from us, and thought this is amazing. So much noise, so much passion. It's a great experience. Started going to shows regularly then, and a friend of mine was like, would you ever try training? And I was like, no, absolutely not. But I love a challenge, and I've been here now for just over a year.
And I mean, you're looking at the likes of Becky Lynch, Sheamus, all the Irish stars. Is this somewhere you want to go, you know, in terms of your career?
Never say never. Never know what's coming down the line. Keep the head down, keep working, and see what happens.
Katie, what does the family think? What do all the gang of Roscommon think about this?
So my nanny doesn't know that I.
Well, she knows now.
Yeah, but they think it's mad. They think it's mad. We've nothing like this in the west of Ireland, so yeah, it's.
You come up here a couple of times a week then to train?
Yeah, I live in Maynooth at the minute, so I come down 2-3 times a week when I can, after work and on Saturday mornings.
You have a massive show coming up. Joy, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's our 10th year anniversary, October 26th. At the National Stadium with Finn Balor and JD McDonough. Tickets are on sale this morning at 11.
And he had a show there last week and he packed the place out, I believe.
Yeah, we sold out again, 2,000 people. It's amazing to see for Irish wrestling.
Yeah, it's incredible. All right, before we let you go, I know we're going to do some moves here this morning. Are you ready for some moves, guys? Yeah, okay, right. Okay, so you're going to take the mic there. We're going to get your masks on, right. Okay, so what's our first move we're going to do here this morning, Joey?
The first move you're going to see is Big Bad Dirty Nicky is going to drop a knee drop on Matthew Smith Bullet there.
Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go all the way from Inchicore. Oh, this fella's about. Oh, that hurt, right?
Deric, your turn.
All right, up
Deric,
you go there.
The most important thing is do not move.
Okay, do not move.
Or
okay,
it could get bad on live TV.
There we go.
Do not move, Deric. Stay still.
I felt that in the face. Oh. Right, our second move.
Our second move, you're going to see Jay, the Kingslayer, is going to perform a 450 splash on Con Kelly here.
Oh. Okay. Oh. Here we go. Right. Is it my turn? It's my turn. It's my turn. Get back up there. Right. Here we go. Here we go. Oh.
Deric, this is one where you definitely do not want to move.
Okay. So I don't want to move here.
Really still. Okay, hands beside you. Hands by your side. He survived. She survived.
What's our last move?
You have one more move. We're going to demonstrate the body slam here by
okay,
the
body
Cat
slam.
Katie.
Right, here we go. Oh.
On Handsome Dara.
Oh, here we go. Oh.
Dan Deric, you're up. Deric, have you got a body slam in you?
No, I've never been body slammed.
Well, you're about to find out.
Okay, Kitty Cat Katie.
Go get him.
Here we go.
You can go from that way. Go. Oh, let's do it. I think we killed him.
Oh my God. Where can we find out more online?
Welcome. Go to OTT Wrestling. Vogue.com for all the information. And Deric, I think it's about.
All right, so my Kitty Cat Katie and all the gang here. Let's see it. In studio.
He's alive.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm in bed. Needless to say, do not try that at home. But, I don't
3
even
weeks
know.
medical holiday for Deric.
Yeah.
He enjoyed that far too much.
Way too
Far
much.
too much.
Yeah. Do they get to pick their own name? Handsome Dara is like, that sounds like he picked his own name.
Whereas, what was the other one? Big, dirty Mickey.
Mick.
Yeah.
Big dirty Mickey.
What would your wrestling name be?
Shiva El Diva.
Oh, I like that.
Excellent. How about you?
I think mine would have to make fun of how ridiculously weak I am. So if The Rock is like the peak, I'd be the Pebble.
Oh, love it.
Sean the Pebble Defoe.
Sean Spaghetti Defoe.
What about you, Elaine?
Oh yeah, I know. You know what you're saying.
I'm saying nothing. I'm asking.
Elaine, the Eunice Crowley.
Hey!
I'm just saying I'm a bit of a big Eunice. I've only met 2 people in my life who can actually pick me up. Because, you know, I'm built for comfort, not for speed. That's all right. I reckon I'd be sturdy enough for the old wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think you'd beat the spaghetti anyway.
Thanks.
Would I beat the diva, though? That is the question. Now, coming up tomorrow, we're talking to the lawyer turned crime writer with no shortage of ideas, Steve Kavanagh.
From Batman to Warrior Queens, we've got a whole host of cosplay characters coming in to celebrate Comic-Con.
Plus, with nearly half of young Irish men believing themselves to be going through hair loss, we'll be looking at some of the alternative treatment options.
All that plus the new sport and weather you're waking up to. Ireland AM is back tomorrow from 9.
I'll have to do the wrestling tomorrow morning, so.
No, we're not doing the wrestling tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Not at all. Are you going to wear a leotard?
Yes, and the mask. Yeah.
It's in the boot. We'll get it now.
Oh, there's mental images, the 2 of you in tights I really did not need. Thank you very much.
I don't know.
See you
It's not bad
tomorrow.
for a
Take
Friday
care.
morning
Bye-bye.
Bye.